for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Caro Herrera, and today I'm not going to be doing one of my usual book, movie, or TV series reviews. I'm actually going to do something very different, but that it's very relatable to the content that I post in my channel. And it's actually this really cool adventure that I wanted to share with you all, in case some of you would also like to do it. So what I'm going to be talking about today is that I just finished back in November 2020 taking this online course by Oxford University, where I studied Victorian Literature. Before I go into any more details though, I should just like to mention that this video is not sponsored by that university or anything. I just really love the class and I want other to try it as well. Especially because before I took the class, I searched if there were any reviews like this online so that I could get an idea of what the class was like, but I didn't find any, so I thought that I should be the first to do one. Okay, so let's go back years ago. When I was a teenager, I first started associating Oxford as the place to study English literature. I think that my first introduction to this was when I was around 15 and I saw the 80s adaptation of Brideshead Revisited. It was my first glimpse into what it would be like to study in that school. And over the years, some of my favorite writers have studied there. Writers like Vera Brittain, the one who wrote Testament of Youth, and J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings, who also taught at Oxford for most of his life. I myself have been at Oxford, but just for a one-day visit. It was back in 2014 and I was actually touring England, and I remember that one day in the morning we were in Wales and I went into this little bookshop and I actually bought the novel Brideshead Revisited. And then later on we drove to Oxford, so I took a picture of me with the book that started it all. I should also probably mention though at this point that I've been a bookworm of English classics ever since I was 14. I also love historical fiction and I'm an Anglophile and a history lover, so all of these interests contributed to my passion for Oxford. I'm from Mexico though, so while I've always fantasized about what it would be like to take a class at Oxford, particularly after I discovered the movie Educating Rita, which showed me that one could actually go to college and just read books and analyze them. It seemed like the coolest career ever, but I knew that there was no future for me there if I wanted to keep on living in Mexico when I was an adult, because there are not that many places except universities and schools where one can learn English literature, and then you have to read the books in Spanish, which I don't like to do. So yeah, anyway, some years ago I did some research and I realized that going to Oxford was very expensive, but then I saw that there were these one-day courses that maybe one day I could take and I still want to take in the future whenever I'm back in England. But then last year, after COVID started and the whole pandemic kept people in their houses for months, I decided to take some online courses, and this one by Oxford was my second one because I had discovered that they also had continuing education online courses. So I thought that this was the best thing I could get under the circumstances if I really wanted to fulfill my dream of becoming an Oxford student. But anyways, after taking the first course, I really want to take others about English history and English literature, from studying the British Empire and the War of the Roses to the Brontes and Austen, and they even have these creative writing workshops. When I was first deciding which course I would first take, I really struggled because I wanted to take them all, but after much deliberation I decided to go for the one called Trollope, Eliot, Dickens and Hardy, Reading Victorian Fiction. It lasted from mid-September to the end of November and it cost around 8,000 Mexican pesos. I decided on this course because I'd loved for years the works of Charles Dickens and Thomas Hardy, but I was still hesitant as to whether or not I would do this one because I'd never been interested in the works of George Eliot. What finally made up my mind though was the fact that I saw that the novel we would be studying by Anthony Trollope was Barchester Towers. Now, I've always loved Alan Rickman, and I remember that he'd once started back in the 80s in this series called the Barchester Chronicles. That show is here on YouTube, so I said to myself, watch the show. If you like it, enroll in the course. If you don't like it, then it won't be worth taking it because there will be 2 books out of 4 you won't be interested in reading. So I saw the Barchester Chronicles, and I'm happy to say that I absolutely adored the series, as I said in the review I made of that show and novels some months ago. So yeah, I enrolled in the class back in the summer of 2020, and I read or reread all of the books beforehand because I wanted to be really prepared when the course finally started. The novels we studied were Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope, Scenes of a Clerical Life by George Eliot, Great Expectations by Dickens, and Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. And let me tell you, I was really glad that I read or reread all of the books before the class began because it would have been really hard work balancing my work and reading the books and doing all of the assignments and homeworks that we had to do for the class. So that was a weight off my mind. And with this, I would like to say that while I really loved the course and highly recommend it to any fellow fellow English lit fans out there, it is a lot of work. The first couple of weeks I was a bit overwhelmed by how much amount of homework I had, but as time went by, I could sort of create this schedule which would allow me to properly keep on working at the newspaper I'm a journalist I'm currently at, and also pay attention to the novels and stuff I had to do for Oxford. And also, this reminds me that at first I thought it was a bit sad that in the course we can't really do video meetings or over Zoom or anything. It's all chat forums, and you can introduce yourself during the first days of class. And at first I thought it very funny that I was one of the only young people taking it. I wasn't that surprised because none of my friends but one or two really love English classics as well, so I was like, okay, I get that an older crowd would appreciate these books more, but it was still weird that all of them were retired people. But then I realized why this was, because they were retired, they didn't have anything else to do. I think they didn't have work anymore to take up their time, so they were free and they could take the course even though it was a lot of homework. So that's the secret, which you should also bear in mind if you want to take it. And I mean, it took around 9 hours of my week to study this course. While it would have been better if I had divided my time for studying a little bit each day, I preferred to do everything in a single day so that I was free all week to do my work from the newspaper. It was hard though. This technique might not have been the best, but in the end it worked for me to work under pressure. Still, I do regret though that because I was so concentrated on finishing a week's homework in one day, as soon as I was done, I didn't want to know anything about Oxford until next week. So I didn't interact with my fellow classmates in the forums as much as I would have liked. But yeah, with all of this in mind, was it worth it taking the class? Definitely, absolutely. Our teacher really knew his subject, and there was such a wealth of material for us to analyze. Not only these Victorian novels, but the era, the authors' lives, the social, religious, love context of people who lived in the 19th century. And I mean, I was over the moon to be proven right that if you study at Oxford, they mean business and they actually delivered like a huge amount of information. They give you so many resources, as I said, and it's all worth it because they really take English literature seriously. Besides the books I read, so I had to buy this book called The Cambridge Companion to the Victorian Novel, and it was also very rich in detail. It's full of just essays that analyze the Victorian era and the books that were popular in that time, so that was also an interesting resource. And I mean, this course allowed me to look at books that I'd loved for years, like Great Expectations and Far From the Madding Crowd, from a different perspective. I wasn't only concentrating on the love relationship from the books anymore, I was also receiving feedback of what other people thought that love relationships were about, and we just could study the way the plot is relatable to reality in the Victorian era, from how society was constructed to the importance of the Church of England in everyday life, how love was perceived back then, the impact of the Industrial Revolution in the country, and so much more. We also had to write 2 essays during the course, and I can only complain about that I couldn't write really lengthy essays because I talk a lot, I write a lot, so it was a bit of a challenge to have a limited amount of time to write, even though I'm a journalist and I usually can't write a long article or anything. But this was something that I really feel passionate about, literature and English classics, so I wanted to really expand myself and couldn't. But yeah, it was overall one of the most gratifying experiences ever. My bibliophile mind, heart, and soul were enriched, and it was just a great treat to myself, and I know that I will take more one day. So yeah, I think that this is all I have to say for today, for this different video to the ones I usually post on my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know what you thought about it, about the class. If you have any questions as to where you can look up on the details of the course, anything you want to know that's relevant, I'm here to answer. And I mean, I'm gonna post in the description box below a link to the course so that it's easier for you guys to find it. Anyways, I'm Caro Herrera, the Mental Traveler, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you're in the world. Take care, and I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye!